All right. Welcome to Digital Audio 300R, the audio lecture series. Today we're here with Ryan Maag. Scoot into frame. Ryan is he's the reason that Maag Audio exists as we know it today. And if you guys have heard the story of Maag Audio, maybe you don't know the reason why Maag Audio does exist. Maybe you know a little bit about Cliff Maag and you know a little bit about the Air Band, but you don't know Ryan, you don't know Ryan's story, and you don't know why this whole thing came about. Ryan and I have known each other since about 2012, maybe now. I went over the legend of Maag Audio was very alive. Not of Maag Audio, but of Cliff Maag. Was very alive when I was a student in the program here, and we started talking about EQ. We started talking about phaseless EQ, and then of course Wiz brought up somebody named Cliff Maag, and he had invented one. And then we went and tried to find the information about this on the internet, and we couldn't find any information. That was in about 2000, probably 7 or 8, and I just thought this stuff was myth. And then somebody told me that we had to look up something called NTI. And I went and looked up an NTI EQ. And my heart stopped. Because it's like, oh my gosh, people want like $5,000 for this EQ. Can it really be that good? And if it's that good, why aren't they making it anymore? And these are questions that prevailed in my mind for a long time until one day I Googled Cliff Maag EQ again because I was like, I want to try this thing. And all of a sudden this website popped up that said Maag Audio. And I was like, what is this? And so I immediately sent an email out and said, hey, I teach over here at UVU, and I've heard legends about your equipment for years, and I would love to try it out. And Cliff Maag Sr., Ryan's dad, called me back and said, why don't you come over and give it a shot? So I went over there expecting to go sit in their studio for a while and try it out. And he handed me 2 units and said, bring them back in 2 weeks. And I was like, what? This isn't real. This isn't how things happen. He's like, yeah, come back in 2 weeks and tell me what you think about it. And I've been in love ever since. If you look at my rack is mostly blue. And Ryan, how do you fit into the picture of Maag Audio?
Well, it's kind of a crazy story. So I started with the old company, NTI. So I was just a youngster. I was 14 years old, actually, when I was working down there with my dad. And so I started working down there with my brother and my dad years back doing the old gear, building all that. So I watched the whole thing kind of transpose, beforehand, kind of, and why a lot of engineers just wouldn't talk about it. It was frustrating because it was their secret weapon, kind of, and so it was hard for us because they didn't have the internet back then. We couldn't do what we do now, so we couldn't get out there like we could, and like we were able to now. And so it's kind of, we were at their mercy in a sense. So I watched all that happen. It was frustrating because, some of these engineers, now they'll talk about it because we can push it kind of how we want to now. But man, when the internet wasn't there, that's kind of where it began, or where we were at. And so that's what happened there. And so basically I saw that all kind of go down, you know what I mean? And it wasn't the time, I guess, for us, for Maag Audio. And so kind of went under, and we just kind of, played our cards. I got into a lot of trouble, through my youth and childhood, and I went to prison. I did a lot of dumb things, you know what I mean? Went kind of south, you know what I mean? And so for my dad, it was really frustrating for him to watch me, you know what I mean, as a young kid. And so he's like, man, how can I help my son, And so I was sitting there, for him, he was just getting to the late part of his career. And so I was just like, Dad, people are talking about your old stuff, and this was years down the road. And this is about kind of a little bit before I actually met you. But after that, I, started to get my life together and things. And I talked to a guy, his name was Dylan Dresdo, he was Black Eyed Peas engineer. Anyway, I sold him one of our old pieces of NTI gear, and so I said, hey, how about this? I had two of them, or actually, yeah, I had two of them that were made, and I had one of them, one of the originals. Anyway, I sold it to him, and he said, you gotta do this again. So that's about the time we started doing it, about that time, and we started thinking about doing this again. And so, but my dad was wanting to help me because I was a convict. I was, going through all this stuff I was going through. And so my dad's like, look, I want to help my son, but I also, and he didn't want to do it again at all. He was like, no, we're not doing this ever again, and that was kind of the thing. And I'm like, oh, but come on, Dad, you gotta do this. These guys want it. These guys, so many people are wanting it, and so he did out of his love for his son, did, but it was awesome because, I've learned so much from it, gone through so much with it, and I've been doing this since. So what's crazy and it's amazing what it's done, and the team that I've had behind me, Brian is a big part of that, the support he's been with us and just helping us navigate what to do next or things like that. He's been great with, and the support for us, but that's kind of where it began though, for me is, desperation really was mine, my dad's, how we're going to do whatever we can to make a life for ourselves. So we did. And that's what we decided to do is build this gear, but we knew how to do. And my dad was an engineer and things. And so he had the knowledge behind it of what all the things you said. But he's taught me a lot of things throughout all that. And I've just kind of worked with him, and my brother deals with the business side of things, thank goodness, because I'm not a business guy, but I've learned a lot of it, that type of thing now since being in business for whatever it's been since 2007, 2009, something like that. But anyway, so that's kind of where it started for me is, like I said, desperation, me trying to get my life together, being in trouble, going through all that stuff. And this was my love too. I grew up around the studio, so I love to be in the studio all the time, always with him. So I was always down there around that type of this world, you know what I mean? So I kind of wanted to be in this world anyway, as far as the music industry goes. And so that's kind of.
Yeah. And so you told your dad, let's start Maag Audio. Your dad's very resistant about starting Maag Audio, but somehow, some way, Maag Audio exists.
Right.
What was the final push for between you and your dad that allowed for this to actually happen?
Well, I think it was him watching me struggle. That was the biggest thing. He's like, no, that was the only thing that pushed him to do this, because he was absolutely adamant he wasn't going to do it. So, and I had to work on him for a while to get where he was going to do it, because he didn't want to have to go through all of it again. It was a lot of work. So we had to get, for me, I had to get, just, he just was at a point where he wanted to help me, and that was it. Like he saw that struggle, his son struggling and that, and I think that was what pushed him over. And I kept at it. I just kept at it and kept at it. And I knew what he had, because I had done the research. I was watching the internet. And I knew a lot more about the internet than he did, and the things that were going on now in our, not, back in the day, but 2010 or, it was still things were going pretty good by then too, anyway, with the internet. So I knew what was happening and the talk that was going on with it. And so I don't know, I just think it was a matter of, I don't know, we kind of had to trust each other, and we just took the leap, kind of like, let's do this. And heck, we put it all on credit cards at the beginning when we did it. Like, it's crazy. We had to literally put everything that we did, whether the circuit boards that we ordered, all that stuff on credit cards. It wasn't like we had a bunch of money to go do it. We just had the people we knew, right? Like people we knew, and some credit, right? Or, a little bit of money, but just did it on our own and did it as we could. And we got a buddy of ours, Travis Allen, that is awesome and works at BYU here. And I think he's done stuff here at EBU too, I'm sure, but he's an engineer that helped us lay out the circuit boards and everything for us. And he's just been a partner with us now. So he's an ownership in the partnership with us as well. So we just said, well, let's just have him be a partner, you know, because he's a big part of this. And so we just kind of worked with him and my dad and me and my brother, and we've done it since. And we love it. It's been very profitable, you know, for us to do it. So we've kept doing it, you know what I mean? And it's grown but it's a good partnership, and it all started that way. It was kind of like my dad's will to help me, and then my will to help him in a weird way, because he was struggling too financially at the time. He was getting to the end of his career, and he had a small studio growing up, did a lot of stuff for all the Osmonds and that for all the years, you know, but it's not much around here. Like when you're a engineer, I mean, it's tough, you know what I mean? Cause you're a self-employed guy, you know, so but he took care of himself, but this has allowed us to do a lot more than we ever thought possible because of this, business that we did, you know?
Yeah, so I think because in our studio, there's a lot of Maag audio equipment, and I think that maybe our students might have a misconception of how big Maag audio is. How many employees do you have?
We have 4.
Actually, you have 0.
Actually 0, yeah. We're all partners, actually.
Partners, they have 4 partners.
We don't have any, and the reason we're able to do that is the way we have it set up is our manufacturing, and we don't have to do all the circuit board stuff, which we did all that for NTI before, but I just have to do the final touch stuff, which I've set it up that way so that I don't have to have a bunch of employees. We do have people we pay to do all of the circuit boards and do all the stuff for us, and a lot, you know, to do all that, but we don't have to worry about all that, because the way it's set up, we have that out to other companies that allow, you know, that do our stuff for us.
When you guys started Maag Audio,
Yeah.
where were you?
Where was I?
No, where was the Maag Audio?
Oh, we were in my basement. The
basement.
home I have now, the basement. We were there for years, for probably, since up until about 6 years, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So, and then we just got to the point we couldn't do it anymore, you know, but then it was just too much stuff, and then adding more products, and it got impossible. So, right. And you know, we did it as long as we could. It was like, why pay for a building if we don't need it, right? Like, and we did it as long as we could, and now we have a building, but it was, you know, that's where we were for a lot of years.
So what I love about this story is you have a name that you guys are so familiar with, and you have it, like, when you guys have met Joe Barisi and stuff, we had him on this, you know, last year, and some of these other guys, they all used their equipment. But that equipment that they were using was built in their basement. Okay, so I want you guys to keep that in mind. Like, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're an engineer and you're building and developing something, and we've got somebody in our senior capstone right now working out something that's really cool, and I'm not going to divulge too much about it, but like, you don't have to go out and have some huge immaculate big space to start, right? The basement that they had is kind of like, it was like a garage that was in the back of the house, and had a little, you know, garage door and little concrete room that they had some desks in, and they built the stuff.
Power we hooked up for it, and everything.
Yeah.
We had it all.
Build it inside of the garage, but you don't have to have a big operation to have a big name. And I think that that's something that I want you guys to take away. And I know you didn't say it, but I'm going to say it for him. Ryan and I became really close, and I'm going to tell you guys a story, because Ryan and I were going through a divorce at the same time. And so when I was frustrated and like I needed somebody to talk to and to vent to, and somebody that could understand where I was coming from, I actually went to his dad. And I was like, oh my gosh, like my life feels like it's falling apart. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's happening. And he was like, come over. So went over there into the basement, and it was like 10 o'clock at night. And he's like, I want you to meet my son, Ryan. I want you guys to connect and talk. And he's like, I'm going to teach you how to build some of these boards. So what you're going to be doing for the next little while is you're going to be stuffing ICs into this little slot here. And this is how you orient it. And this is how you get them all set up. And then when you'll pass it down, and then we're going to test some things and make sure that they're right. And then it allowed Ryan and I to like vent to each other about like the things that were going on in our lives, right? Like, oh my gosh, I feel like my life's falling apart.
Mine was too. So we were just kind of
It's like
where it was,
just the TV would be on in the
Yeah.
corner, we'd be
Yeah.
doing our thing, we'd be
Yeah.
venting, and then all of a sudden, before you know it, like 4.5, 5 hours
Therapy.
have gone by, and we're like, oh, I feel better. And look at, you got 20
Yep.
20 EQ units
That's right.
built up. And that was really like how Ryan and I became friends,
Yeah.
was like sharing a common place to vent, but to also build. And I think that's really important. Ryan, from the start, you guys had one preamp,
Yep.
and you
That's the
have
first
one
product we did, yeah.
EQ.
Mhm.
Where have you guys gone from there, and how have you gotten to that place?
So it's kind of crazy because after we did the EQ, so we did the preamp first, the EQ, and then we ended up doing an EQ2 after that, and then we went to we tried to do some other things. Well, we called it a black box. I won't even say the name because it's not even a name, but we ended up going to it took us from this box to the Magnum K, so it basically, it didn't work like we wanted to. So we learned what we learned from that to do the Magnum K. And we did the Magnum K, and then but we had the plugins. We started doing the plugin stuff. That's where it went crazy. Like as soon as I had a friend, my dad had a friend, Dave Wrights, and he's a guy that he does a lot of the, Madonna stuff, the older stuff, like the old guy, like Celine Dion and some of these big artists. But he hooked us up with this company called Plugin Alliance, and they were nobody really. I mean, they were just starting. We were their first plugin, actually. So it was kind of crazy. It was a little risky, but not too much because they had done Brainworks already. So we were like, okay, these guys could help us. We're small. Let's build on that. So we went to them and we got the plugin started and going, and they gave us a chance. But we met them from Dave Wrights, and he hooked us up with them, and he's a real good friend of ours, and he uses the old gear, and so we got hooked up with him, and that worked out really awesome. And now they've just got bought out by Native Instruments and everything else, and how, and things that are going out, but that's where we went to from that. And then that's what kind of went crazy is after that software, they were able to have that download for free, so they could check out our gear, you know what I mean, for free, and not have to buy it, you know what I mean? So they could actually just download it and hear it in their studio, in their space for nothing. So that was a huge thing. And then that's kind of when people started to, oh yeah, I like that or whatever. And they didn't have to, and then they started buying the hardware because of that software. Really is what happened. Is I thought it was going to be, all my partners were saying, no, we can't do this because it'll ruin, I said, no, nobody knows who we are. Like, this can't hurt us. I promise you, it won't hurt us. But you'd think it would, kind of, is how they thought. And it didn't. It actually did the complete opposite. It really took us to that, you know what I mean? And to that other level. But and it's continued to because of that software. So
you had to take a risk starting a company.
yeah.
You had to take another risk in putting out a plugin that everybody thought was going to
tank
like.
or whatever.
And do you understand why they thought the plugin was going to tank their company? Because you're gonna get a plugin who wants, we don't need to buy the
$200,
expensive
right?
hardware,
Yeah.
right?
You
I
don't need
can
the hardware.
get a plugin that is
Yeah.
$150, $200,
It was
or I can
scary,
get $1,000 piece of hardware.
Yeah.
It's interesting, they invite me to go to NAM with them every year. And at NAM, everybody comes up and says, can I actually touch it? And we're like, that's what it's here for, right? But like, they're so excited to feel the physical thing because they played with the
software,
the
that's all
actual
they've got.
software, and now they want to actually come up and see what the real hardware is like, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And it's really interesting to watch people be like, I want to buy this from a place where the guys Cliff and Travis would be like mortified,
Oh yeah.
like
They
talking
were-
about going in and doing a plugin
Yeah,
to a place where
adamantly.
like we should do a plugin, right? And it's funny because now when new equipment comes out, they're like, let's try a plugin. In fact, we've talked to Travis a few times.
Yeah.
Hey, let's just try a plugin first, and then if it does successful, maybe we go
Yep.
into like build one unit and then see if it works well, and then come back and look at something later. And we're still like, we still try to convince them of that, and there's things that are always going to be like, but that's how the Magnum K and all these things came about. It wasn't me, it was people like Dave Reitzes, Dave Pensato, these really high
Dylan
level
Dresso, yeah, these big,
engineers that are saying, can you do this to this? And then them innovating on that,
oh yeah, for sure.
which is also a risk, right? What do you find when you take the risks?
Oh, well, it's either a big failure or not, sometimes, I mean, it can be, but most of the time, the risk that we've taken. And I had to always go with my gut kind of thing, like I really, just kind of, but when we did take those risks, they were huge payoffs, like huge payoffs. Especially that one, because, and that was one of the biggest risks that it could have gone either way. But nobody knew who we were, so I might, for me in my brain, I'm thinking it can't, it's gonna go the other way because. So I felt like it wasn't that much of a risk, but the other guys did, and I totally understand why. But it wasn't, it was the best thing we ever did, and one of the best things, you know what I mean, really, so.
What are some of the best lessons that you've learned that you could pass on?
Oh, I'd say not be afraid of risk, for one thing, and not be afraid to do something that may seem totally far-fetched and a dream, honestly, like something, because that's all it was for me. Like I remember as a little kid thinking, and it's crazy because I actually said it to I got so mad at some of the people that were in the company before, because the way they treated me, yeah, so I got real upset, but I'm like, I'm gonna run that company someday. I was so mad, I was bent, like, I'm gonna run that, but I just said that as a little 14-year-old kid, trying to be. And it's crazy because it actually happened, like that, but that never stopped, even from that little, being that little kid watching my dad kind of go through what he had to go through in that company before. It was hard, you know what I mean, to watch, but, and it didn't do what he had wanted it to. And we knew what it was capable of, but the world wouldn't figure that out until 25 years later, 20 years later. But I felt that back then, even at that young age, that I'm going to do this someday, like this little kid, like, and that dream kept going for me, like I did, it came in a different way that I never thought possible. And somebody else came to me and said, hey, you should do this. And I had promptings from people that gave me the insight, go do this, and don't be afraid to. And I had that support throughout, and that help. And I'll be honest, it was, for me, it was God. I had a good relationship with him, and I was doing my best to figure that out. But I can tell you right now, he put people in my life that helped me and guided me. That's the bottom line. I would not have done any of this without that. That is what happened for me, is he guided me in the right people, the right places, and they were all around me, and it just came to me because of that. You know what I mean? And I was trying to do the best I could, right? And I was like, how am I gonna do this? And he always put people in my life to do what I needed to do, and to figure it out, and to give me the light I needed to do that. So that's really it. But it came in many different ways. Brian's one of those. Like, my dad, there's all the engineers, the people that I've met through this that have pushed it further. Dave Wrights is, people that Dave Pensada, like those guys were the answers, you know what I mean, that I'd get, those little things that would help us to move forward. So I don't know, it's crazy. That was the main thing for me, is my relationship with God. Really, for me, that's what pushed this and got me through what I had to get through with my addiction, my struggles and all that. But also to keep going and keep doing what I dreamed of doing, you know what I mean, and wanted to do. I'm like, how in the heck is that going to be possible? But he made it possible, you know what I mean? Like, people that he put in my life, he made it possible. And that's what I was thinking today. I can't even believe I'm even coming here to sit here and talk to you guys, honestly. You know what I mean? Because I was just I didn't do college. I didn't do, you know what I mean? I didn't do any of that. And I wish I had, because and now I'm doing college right now. I know it sounds crazy, guys, but I literally am in college now because it's so important. But I didn't see that back in those days when I was going through all that and my addiction and everything. So it's like, I look at you guys and I'm like, I can't, it's crazy to me to think I'm even coming in here to sit here and talk. Like, You know what I'm saying? And,
Yeah.
and that God could do that for me. You know what I mean? That he could actually, even with my screw ups and throughout all that, he made something out of it.
That's
It's crazy.
something that I absolutely love and admire, is that just because you had something that could look like to a lot of people the end of the road, like, oh,
I thought it was for a long time.
what's, he mentioned it, what's lower than going to prison, right? And
Sitting there
being
feeding
locked
death
up.
row.
Yeah,
I'm like, where did I get, how did I get here? And I literally remember that. That's exactly what I felt like when I was sitting in that RNO cell up at the state prison, literally up there. I sat there going, what in the heck? And I was 18 years old. So that's about the time I was going through that. And man, it's crazy, like, to think, you know what I mean?
Yeah. you go from where you would feel like, I don't know if you guys know who the Iron Cowboy is. He's a local guy that he's, done like 100 triathlons in 100 days, kind of like super crazy thing. But yesterday he said something that was really poignant to me, and he said, I would hope that the best thing that could ever happen to you is for you to hit rock bottom. Because once you've hit that place, there's only one
Yep.
place left to go. And that's where, out of any lack of hope and, or what worse could happen than where I'm at now, that's where people take the biggest risks.
Yep.
It's where people are like, the worst thing that's gonna happen to me, I think has already happened, and now I'm willing to take
Yeah,
that risk again.
that's right.
And it's gonna be hard sometimes to convince other people to get on your side,
Oh, totally, yeah.
but you can convince people to get on your side and to support you and to
You
have
get
the
one
vision.
person on your side, it's God. I promise you, everything else will fall into place. I promise you.
Yeah.
That's something I learned, that if you can just work that out with him, that's what I had to do, and man, it's the stuff he pulled with, it blows my mind. Still does. It's still blowing my mind to this day.
And is your life easy?
No, oh heck no, not even close. But I look at how many blessings I actually have. Yeah, there's still hard stuff. He just lifted me above that, helped me to get through it. I still got all those hard things. I still have to go through the divorce stuff. I still have all that to deal with, but I'm able to do it. That's the thing, is I don't know how I could take care of 8 kids, pay child support on 8 children between my wife and I, literally, like 2 households. But I am, because of this. He's been able to give me what I need to do all those things.
So you're
And
saying
and
that,
more, you know what I mean? Which is crazy, because I couldn't.
you're saying that hitting rock bottom, life didn't just get easier after that?
I don't know. It got easier. Oh, yes, it did, but it didn't. It still was hard for a while. I went through a lot of hard things still. I didn't
Oh, yeah.
just, I was alive. I still go through hard things to this day. Just, I'm able to get through them easier because I have that help. You know what I mean? And,
Yeah, the
and I
more
changed my life
challenges
in a lot
you
of
go
ways too.
through,
You know what I mean? So
the easier it is to overcome the next challenge.
Yeah.
You guys are in a time of life right now where school is a challenge, right? You've got relationships that you're forming,
totally.
starting, developing, building, and you're gonna learn and find and see new challenges that are going to occur. But you're also in a place where you have the most support that you'll ever have right now. You've got professors, you've got
use it while you
got
guys
your
can.
network of people that are in here, right? Use those, because at some point in your life, you're gonna find that those are the people you're gonna call back and
Yep.
say, I need help, right? If I could pass anything to you guys, it's like, maybe you don't necessarily, Whitney and Walker here, are just clashing, right? Maybe you're clashing at some point and you're butting heads. There might be a reason that you're butting heads, and you could actually learn the most from the person next to you. There were people in school that I could not stand, but I learned valuable lessons from them in school. And there was people that I absolutely loved and adored while I was in school, that later sometimes are the people that are harder to stand now, right? So the network that you build, even if you clash a little bit, is huge. Your success primarily works off of the network that you have built, and we've discussed this many times. the audio industry, the music industry is actually just a relationship.
It is, you guys. It is. It's exactly what it is. And that's what I love about it is, and I think a lot of places, there's a lot of different industries like that, you know, but the audio industry is special. Like it has a lot of amazing people. Some of my favorite people are in this industry, you know, they're just, I don't know, you know what I'm talking about. It's that, I don't know, it's that same love everybody has for it. You know what I mean? We all have a common bond, you know what I mean, kind of thing. And it's helped me a lot, get through a lot of hard things. Like I remember going through tough stuff, but just the thought, knowing my friends were around me, or Brian, like huge support for me when I was going through my stuff. This guy was huge in the darkest moments. Some of through my divorce and things, and you know, that really played a huge role in keep on going. You know, there's gonna be dark times. There's gonna be things where you're gonna be like, how am I gonna get through this? You know what I mean? And how is this gonna be possible? It's not gonna be, you know, it is. There's ways he's gonna figure it out for you. And the quicker you can, you know, let God do his thing and let him, you know, trust him a bit and know it'll get better, and try to do the best you can. It doesn't mean you're gonna be perfect, but do the best you can, you know, and you'll get to where you need to be and where you want to be, you know. But most important, keep talking to God. And that's my personal honest opinion, guys. I know that sounds crazy, but that's literally got me through it all. And I know what all that happened to me. There were so many miracles that happened because of it. And they are unexplainable to me to this day, you know. And it's the only thing I can really, yeah, I've never seen the guy, but I can tell you right now, I know there's somebody up there that I'm not aware of, that's aware of me and aware of all of us, and that has more power than I got. And he's done a lot of crazy things for me in my life, and that's only, and I hear that's his name. So that's why but I've learned to trust it. I've learned to trust that he's gonna do something, and there's somebody else up there that's running the show, and I just sit back and do my best, do my little things that I gotta do, and let him do the big things, kind of thing. That's the biggie for me. That's what I've learned is don't try to, you know, just have that relationship with him so that he can do the big things, you know.
So this is your introduction to Ryan and to Maag Audio. We're gonna do more, but I'm gonna turn the time over to you guys for the last few minutes. If you guys have specific questions that you'd like to ask, to get to know, to ask Ryan about his journey, his path, this will be one of many times that we'll have somebody from either Ryan himself or somebody from Maag Audio come in and talk to us. Because there's a lot of stories to be learned, and they're a resource that used to be just on the other side of the freeway, and now they're 2 exits away. They moved to Linden, so far away, and you guys, you'll never see them again because they're so far away. No, I'm just kidding. Do you guys have any questions that you'd like to ask? I know, yeah, I could tell you had a question.
So since you guys said you don't really have employees and you work with like manufacturers.
Yeah.
How do you guys, well, first one, are you guys building stuff mainly in the US or out of?
All in the US. Well, most of it all is in the US. We have our circuit boards are as a company down in the East, in the US here, and they do some of our circuits, you know, like stuffing them and putting, you know, they can do it a lot faster than we can, and they got the whole crew to do it all. So we sub it out to them to where they just do it, and we make sure it's done the way we want it done. So they do that part, and then we do all the final stuff. We make sure, so the final potentiometers, I like to put in myself, just stuff that they're gonna mess up. Most of them do, you know, and so we just learn that. So we learn the things we gotta do and dial in just right, and how the LEDs line up. I wanna put the LEDs, you know, just little things like that, but most of the guts of it, we have them do it, and they send it to us, but they're out of the US.
Yeah, so when you're looking at your resistors and your capacitors,
Yeah.
those are being just put on the boards somewhere else. Potentiometers, what he didn't mention is they actually test every potentiometer. So if you go over
Most
to their
don't do that,
shop,
but we do.
every potentiometer is matched. So when you get an EQ4 and then you get another EQ4, they are going to be matched because
Yep.
they write the resistance value on that, and then they make sure that every one of them that comes
Yeah.
off the line has the same resistance value. Like, and we're not talking like
Dead
within
on.
a huge wide thing. I mean, we're talking to something that maybe you guys have heard of called picofarad value, which is a very small tolerance. And then they test as they build everything. they have to get everything lined up within a certain specific value. And so, yes, you're seeing some of the board get manufactured, but everything gets tuned here in
Yeah.
Utah.
All that we do, we won't let anybody, because we know exactly where it needs to be and we have to have it there. The guys that we know they're gonna need it at that, especially the mastering guys or, things like that. So, but we like with EQ4M, each side is identical. You're gonna, on each band is gonna be exactly where the other band is on the right. And then some of the EQ4s, if you buy them, you can buy one and they'll have a different tolerance later on. That's why it's better to do the EQ4M, is because they'll be identical. So when you get the two, you get a 2-channel, right? They're gonna be identical, but when we sell the EQ4s, it's better to buy them. I'm just telling people, because a lot of people don't know this, but buy them close together. Like if you're gonna get a pair right away, because they're gonna match better. They're gonna match exactly, most likely, because we set them, and we sell them number by number, but the closer the numbers are together, the closer they're gonna be in tolerance together, and match. So it's interesting, and we can only do that so much with the 500 series stuff, but with the EQ4M, that's dead on, because, we do those two right at the same time, and so they're always the exact same. So those guys always know they're gonna get that. That's why I like the EQ4M, because you're gonna have, a little bit better.
We got Tyrannosaurus Rex
Yeah.
above us. Like, I feel like
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
in Jurassic Park. Do you guys feel that too?
Yeah.
Like, what is going on up there? I don't even know what's above us, but, does anybody else have any questions? Yeah.
Especially since, everything that you learned, you didn't go to school for, it was just kind of, self-taught or inherited. What was like the toughest thing to like grasp when you're designing
Well,
gear?
it's kind of, for me, there's still some hard things for me to grasp that my dad grasped and my brother, and Travis grasped. Those guys are just brains, these guys went to school for a lot. Well, not my dad, but Travis, he's an engineer, but so for me, it was some of the things they still go over my head with some of the stuff, but I was able to learn a lot of things I need to keep, to build. I kind of handle all the building side of it. So I've learned a lot of the things to be able to test them, or how they all need to lay out right to fit in the box, just, things like that. That it just comes as you do it enough. You screw up enough, you're gonna figure it out, because you get, what I mean? So that for me, it was just trial and error, and I had a team, those guys were always there to help me figure it out and learn. And so I just picked it up, it was pretty easy when you have a tutor there always with you. And that was kind of what it was like for me. Those guys were the best you could have for tutors, that when it comes to building gear, because they knew it so well. So I'm not even close to where they're at with what they do. You know what I mean? They're geniuses that way. But for me, I just do what I do, and I build the gear, and the part I do a lot of is the relationships with people, with going out, like the engineers and that type of thing. I like to be the social side of it, and the marketing side of it, and things like
His
that.
official title is Chief Marketing Officer at Maag Audio.
Well, it used to be, but now it's actually Chief Manufacturing Officer. But I
See,
do a lot of it. I do like we do. When you're the owner, you kind of do everything. You know what I mean? The different hats, and we all do. They all do as well. We all kind of interact, and we make decisions together on everything. Yeah, even on the marketing, we don't have one guy just does it and we just trust him to go do it. I mean, it's not that we don't trust him, but we just all like to have a say in what happens. And that's kind of how it's been. We just have a good relationship, and we work good together, and we don't have a lot of squalls between us. And we usually agree on most things, you know what I mean? Sometimes it can get a little with family, but for the most part, we're pretty, yeah, okay, all right, we'll do this your way, or whatever. Sometimes
We'll
that's
bring
hard.
Travis sometime, and Travis is the one that actually designs the circuit boards.
Yeah.
So Travis will go into a CAD program and actually get the layers of everything right. And then he'll, with Ryan and Cliff, will actually build out the first unit and kind of explain why the things are in the different places. And that's where Ryan learns that. So if you go over and you see Travis and like Josh Singer, if you guys know him from last year, he went over there a bunch of times and learned how to use the software so he could design something he was working on last year. So he could design the circuit.
good
And
software.
Travis actually taught him how to do that, and he's a good resource. And so I'll bring him in so you guys can, kind of understand that as well. Because you got people who have different hats. Cliff
Yeah,
Senior
totally.
was an engineer, worked as a recording engineer,
And
also learned
recording
how to
engineer,
build. Yep.
yeah.
So he's one that's gonna be more the person conceptualizing like, this is an idea and this is how we can bring it to fruition.
Yep.
And then they'll start piecing together the idea, building things, and then once they have a unit that's ready to be built, then Travis builds and designs that final thing. Ryan's the one's putting it all together, and
Once they get it all, yeah, I pretty much have to duplicate it every single day, you know what I mean?
And
So
then Cliff
test it.
Junior is the one who's out there ordering all the parts, and getting, he's the one that's out talking to the different component people and getting the right
Yeah,
amount
that's
of
what he-
orders
thank goodness
in
I
and
don't-
out. And he's also one that's helping with the distribution worldwide.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I know that because I've been in there enough to watch everything happen. And that's one of the reasons they bring me into NAM is because
Yep.
he's not a recording engineer.
No,
He doesn't sit in the studio all day. He builds. So he can talk to people about the build, but then when they ask him about where's my application on this,
yeah.
his dad's so busy at
Yeah.
NAM, like everybody's just like boom, focused on.
I have him there to help me.
So
Cause
when they say, how do you do this? They bring me in to say, hey, can you talk to them about this? Because right now, like,
Yeah.
this is above my pay grade. Like,
And
right?
it is, yeah,
Yeah.
but, and that's the thing, I love to do music, I'm a musician and everything, I play piano, do, keyboard stuff, but I don't know it like that engineering side, I don't know it like he does, and my dad does, and Travis does too,
yeah.
but he's kind of got both sides,
Yeah.
but we all make a team, you know what I mean, we need each other, every one of us, and so like, that's the thing, is we work great as a team, and we all have our own little special things that we bring to it. And that's kind of been mine. Mine's kind of been the visionary kind of person in the business, like, hey, let's do this, or hey, let's do 500 series because it's the new thing, or, because that's kind of what my role's been, or let's do the plugin because, or, things like that have kind of steered where things are going. That's kind of been my role a lot in the
Oh,
business.
I guess like sort of a follow-up question. This is, something that I would probably ask again when you bring the other guy through. Because the context is my dad's an RF engineer. He's really good with electronics. I've
Yeah.
just been toying with the idea of just like building like some sort of signal generator oscillator just to see
Yeah.
how things work. So like
Yeah.
in terms of like, building and components and stuff like that, is there like something where you go like, you don't want to like make this mistake, or like, I don't
Hmm.
know if you kind of get what I'm like getting at. If I'm just like trying to
Yeah, you mean as
Yeah.
far as like
getting started DIY.
Oh,
just,
DIY,
like,
yeah.
any sort of gear,
well, I think as you're doing, like when we got into it, finding this software, he was talking about this guy well, we had a guy, we looked it up and found this software that works really good. So, I forgot the name of it, actually. I can't remember it now. It's
Yeah.
Sunstone. Anyway, it's a company that does these things, and that, I would start out there. Don't go too big. Like, don't go pay a bunch of money. Like, try to get a company like that can do small runs, and things like that. When you're starting out, that was a big thing for us, is because some of these guys want big, you gotta have 200 of these before we can even do this or that. But we started building with these little guys and it's more money off the bat, right at the beginning, to buy those circuit boards. But man, it really saves a lot of money because you're not have to pay 200, and then you got 200 boards you can't even use because you have to make changes and things. So that was a big deal, is getting a software, a company that can actually help us do the software or build the gear, build it in a computer format, where you can lay it out and do the circuit board layout and do ones and twos of them, do like a couple of them at a time rather than have to pay like 200 and things like that. So
it's called Sunstone.
it's called Sunstone Circuits. I think.
They're the ones that manufacture, but you
They
get
have software with them that
from them.
they
to
manufacture
design
it, yeah, and those guys have software with it, but you go through someone like that where you're not paying, a bunch of money to do 200, or, because they're gonna demand you do at least this or that, many of them, and that just saved a lot of money and time for us. And then they give you all the files you need to give to the people that, when you want to do big amounts, once you dial it in right. Once you got it where you like it and it's dead on, you know the bugs are out, shoot it over to them, and then you do the big runs, you know, but that saved us a lot of money and a lot of time, and we can get them quick, you know.
But while
within
you're a
couple weeks.
student, look up MATLAb, because it's
Yeah.
available, right? And
I started that. in
Yes.
CS, Yeah.
so in MATLAB, you can put in different values and different things, and it'll help you build the resistors, and then it'll say, this is what's happening, right?
Right, yeah.
But you can do MATLAB for free while you're here.
That's a good
So,
idea.
so that's something that I would recommend, like,
Sure.
if you wanna really go that route, then
Yeah.
start learning that. So,
Yeah, that definitely would be,
and there's classes available, like
Yeah.
in CS for that.
especially
Which I
for
know
what you're doing.
It wasn't specifically us, but I won't tell a student not to go expand. Like, if you're in digital media and you have electives that you can take somewhere else, expand, right? Allow your brain to absorb as much knowledge as possible while you're here. Use those electives to your benefit. Like I took so many elective credits that I think Tanner's at the same level as me, where they told me, like, you need to graduate, like, you have too many credits, like, what are you doing? And
He
it's
likes
like,
to learn though, that's a
Yeah.
cool thing, he's always learning. you know?
and so, but don't be afraid to keep learning, right? Yeah. Any other questions you guys have? Not at the moment. Well, like I said, we'll get you guys a tour over at Maag
Yeah.
Audio now that they're reestablished and settled in.
Yeah.
We used to just pop across the freeway really quick and go and do a couple visits over there, but they moved, and last time we were like, hey, can we come over? Like, we actually are moving. No. So it wasn't because they don't like us, it was because it was a kind of a quick transition into a new location.
Was.
And Ryan, thank you so much for coming in. We'll have you back again
Guys,
soon.
thanks
You
for
guys check out Maag Audio Plugin Alliance if you're in the UA world.
Especially
you
this
can
week.
you can get the they're in the UA platform as well, with their accelerators and the DSP. So a lot of ways you can check them out. Plugin Alliance again, and we gotta get your plugins on every one of these computers so that they can
We do,
that.
I'll see if I can.
I say that every time and I forget to ask,
I
but
know.
we need to do it. We need to get them here. So,
I've been talking a lot with Christoph, so maybe I'll have a talk.
cool. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thank you guys
All right, you guys.
online. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks.
DAPR 300R Digital Audio Lecture Series. We're signing out. See you guys next time.
Thanks.